And welcome everybody, Robert Aducci here along with Timothy Brown, and we are here to talk about Ulisses World.
Good morning everybody, depending on where you are. How's it going, Robert?
I'm doing well, And welcome JD, our special guest. Welcome JD.
JD, all right. She's our great producer for things other than this show, for what it's worth. She's not on the clock as a producer right now. So anything goes wrong, it's not JD's fault.
That's right. It's my fault as usual. We'll see if we're all muted, if everybody can hear us today.
Right.
I'll count that as a win. So JD, how did you get involved with RPGs?
Well, I back in 1993 just happened to sit down at a lunch table where a group of kids were talking about the game they were playing. And having no friends at the time, I just figured, why not ask? And so I asked if I could join them. And so I started Star Wars. It's my first RPG back in the day.
Is that a D6
and when I went out to college, it was, yeah.
Nice.
Classic.
By the time I got off to college, I started playing Rifts with a group of people that I had just met. And it wasn't until many years later that I started with the D&D.
Wow, so you broke the mold there. So many people start with Dungeons and Dragons in one flavor or another and then move on. And you turned that on its head. Way cool. Yeah. Did you just play, or were you game mastering any of those games?
I mostly played because I was joining groups that already had an established GM and DM. But I think that means that it's given me the opportunity to spread out a lot. I have played a lot of different systems.
Nice.
Because I'm not married to one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now we've got you deep into all of ours, right?
Yeah. So I was going to say, what was your experience with Torg or the Dark Eye or any of our other games kind of before coming to produce for us?
But since JM and I had a friendship before this all started, I was playing those games with him. He was DMing for me, so I got one of the best as an intro into those systems.
Right.
And so it was really glorious because most people play games that are very rules heavy, or at least rules forward. And I am not that girl. In fact, if there were no rules, I'd be happy. And I just kind of I know there are rules and I know there are ways to optimize things, but I just don't. That's not how I play. I'm very much a pick a personality. The more unusual and different each time, the better. And then just have fun with whatever sandbox you're playing in.
Awesome.
Nice.
That's great. So you mentioned JM, that's John Matthew, and people are familiar with him. He's been a guest on our show here before, and of course they see him live on so many streamed games that we're doing, and they just don't realize that behind the scenes making all of that work is you, JD. So how did JM get you involved in all of that?
Since Jay and I we are friends and we enjoy each other's company, and we both really understand how the other person thinks. And so when he was presented with this opportunity, he knew that he would need somebody behind the scenes to be doing what he can't. He's crafting stories almost constantly for various projects, and there's just no way that one human being can figure out all of the mechanical and technical and social aspects of doing any kind of live streaming and still craft the best story for not only the players but for the viewers. So he asked if I would be a part of that with him, and that is something that I am capable of doing and have some tangential experience with, and so I was more than happy to come alongside him.
So I've been to the studio, of course, there in Colorado Springs, and right now it's not in use because of the pandemic. But when you are there, I know where the control room is, and typically you're obviously off screen. But what typically are you paying attention to most as you produce those live shows, as they're being created and recorded?
part of being a producer is really multitasking. And so I will pick my top 2 priorities, which in general is going to be checking to make sure that everything looks good on stream, and always being prepared to switch views, camera angles, or scene setups. And that is my primary goal, because I've already had to make sure that the sound sounds good. And so as long as nothing changes, that's low priority. And make sure that the lighting hasn't, altered things. And so that's low priority, because that's set. But making sure that everybody looks good, that I'm marking anything that I need to talk to the cast or JM about either immediately or surreptitiously afterwards. And then the chat, making sure that, there's nothing dastardly, let's just go with that word, happening. Because we get bots and we have to eliminate those and take care of them.
Oh, lucky you.
Yeah. And so there's processes that are happening with that, but also making sure that everyone's engaged and answering their questions and passing along things that, JM can either address immediately because he understands there's a question, so he can explain what's happening to the audience, which makes it a great learning tool, but also then can help people feel like they're engaging personally with the live experience.
How's this, and how's all that changed? Because for some time now, of course, we've been doing this remotely. Everyone's remote rather than being in that terrific studio. Everybody's in their own place, but the functions are largely the same, I'm sure. But how has the process sort of changed for you?
It's gotten 10 times more difficult.
Sorry.
No, it's just the nature of the beast. You are trying to deal with individual lighting setups, camera setups, sound setups. So all of that, you're trying to figure out how to integrate as best you can with, what you're working with. But also you're dealing with internet issues. So if somebody drops out, that changes all of your camera angles, and you have to figure out how to not panic and work as quickly as possible to fix it, assuming that their internet doesn't come back, within a few seconds.
Yeah.
And so it's a constant near heart attack.
Yeah.
On some days. And other days, it's like, oh, good, everything's going well. I just have to interact with the chat, because there's not really a lot you can do with the screens as they are, because there's not different angles. At this point, I have a mess up screen where I have screenshotted everyone's face so that if all of the camera angles are messed up, I can shunt that in there and let people know we're still talking, we're still there. The show is still happening. I just don't want people looking at weird screens.
Yeah.
So you get to handle the stress. You mitigate stress for a large part of what you do. So we appreciate that. Yeah. It comes off very well. So we appreciate everything you're doing, and I love the overall content. And we're doing new games now. Can you talk about some of the newer items that we're doing for some of the people watching this show today who may not be aware of some of our newer programming?
Well, it is exciting to watch the different storylines. And so as we get different cast in, we've gotten to play things like a special adventure of Myth. We've gotten to play some special adventures of the Dark Eye, which has been a great way to do little encapsulated adventures that either help you understand how that adventure could work for your game, or is a great introduction to how the game as a whole feels and plays, which I think is brilliant. But we also then have gotten to adapt and play some different storylines with different people. So Torg has gotten a lot of great adventures with various casts, and I love Torg. It is so beautifully narrative. It's one of my favorites. But then we've also gotten to explore Fading Suns, which is still fairly new to people. Torg seems to be known, but Fading Suns is still kind of new to people, and they don't really know what it is yet. And so getting to explore that with new people has been amazing, especially with all the different storylines we've had there.
Sure, there's no question that Torg Eternity has been in production for a long time, from Ulysses in its newest edition. It's got a lot of releases out, and Fading Suns is really just getting started. Though both games are nostalgic games brought back from their original releases in the late 80s or early 90s. So those audiences are out there, and we want to reach out to everybody who's got fond memories of either one, Torg Eternity or Fading Suns. And a lot of what you're producing is going to give people access to that. So we appreciate it, and it all looks really good. So great job.
Yeah, and
they're great games.
We'll get into the specific games, and you can tell us more about those as we move through our news. But let's move, Tim, into Las Vegas Con news. Vegas Con, Ulysses Vegas Con next year. What are we doing with that?
Well, we're gathering up more information right now. We've already got the location, as many of you know, is already set, the Artisan Hotel here in Las Vegas. That's all secured. We're talking with them about specifics about the venue and the meals and whatnot. So that's all well in hand. What we're starting now in earnest is creating the overall company scheme of absolutely, actually what we're going to present. We're gathering data from everybody in our audience. Thanks for sharing that, of course, and trying to figure out exactly what events we're going to put on, what we're going to focus on, how many of our people we're going to have at the convention, which will be everybody really on the English-speaking side, and then select people from our Valdame's office as well. JD, we'd like to talk to you eventually about coming out and being part of the convention as well. April of next year, get it on your calendar. But along with all of that, we're trying to figure out and put pen to paper on exactly how we're going to make a sign up for the convention and everything go on there. And we're talking about doing that in some unusual ways. So more details are coming, but we have weekly meetings right now where we're getting all of the underlying infrastructure of the convention all set so that we can really push and promote it as we move towards its eventual actual time in April coming up this very next year. So definitely keep an eye on this space and our online presence, and to learn more about Ulysses Las Vegas Con for next year.
Yeah, I put the link for the interest form there in the chat. So if you are thinking about coming, if you think it's something you might be interested, definitely click that link, because we are taking directly from that feedback. Like, that's helping us guide what content we create and different programs. Like, if you have an idea that you think would be cool, put it in there, and we could end up doing it. And if a lot of people like it, we'll do it. So definitely let us know what your interest is, because this is going to be a relatively small convention. We're not aiming for an Origins or anything like that. It is small. It is for fans. So we want we want the convention to be what you want it to be.
Yep, intensively focused on a limited audience for a lot of fun in a interesting and really cool setting. So we look forward to everything you have to tell us. We'll try to make this convention everything you want it to be. So let us know.
Definitely.
As for our game lines, let's start with the Dark Eye. Robert, are you ready to move on? Do you have something else to say about?
Yeah, so the Dark Eye, the Gods of Armentria late pledge portion of the crowdfunding is over, and the PDFs have started going out to folks. So if you backed that, you should be getting those. Recently, How to Be a Great Game Master has been doing the Dark Eye videos, and his last one was an adventure creation video. He's also put out kind of his intro video as well as character creation, and so that's all in preparation for their actual play, which should be out next week, I believe. Or in the next couple of weeks. But he just put out this Tuesday his adventure creation video, so people really seem to be enjoying those. So if you're new to the Dark Eye and you kind of want to see an overview of that, of what it is and how you can be a GM and how you go about creating characters and creating adventures, check out How to Be a Great GM's channel.
Yeah, you've got a link to that people will be able to see right after the show. Is that right?
Yeah, there's definitely a link in there. I've also, for streaming, I've been doing some Book of Heroes streaming, which is the computer role-playing game that recently came out, and so that's all based in the Dark Eye. It's been interesting and fun. There's been some really challenging adventures. Like one time I had to go through one adventure like 3 times. I just kept getting annihilated by the last encounter, and so like I had to like change up the way I was doing it. I had to like set traps because there's so many people, like so many bad guys that come and try to kill you. So like I had to set traps so that when I retreated, they would run into them and they would kill them, and then I could have enough hit points to finish the rest of them off. So that was fun, kind of figuring out like it was basically like I was smashing my head into the wall because I would just like die the first 2 times. Like, what is going on? Because
how can I do this?
It was just it was a big jump in difficulty from I guess from the tier 1 to tier 2 adventures, but it was fun to figure that out. So
JD, what can you tell us about some of the streaming you're doing for the Dark Eye? Because you've done some stuff for the Dark Eye, right?
Yeah, we had some that we're still trying to play with, but we did oh goodness, I've totally forgotten the name of the adventures. We've done a couple of adventures.
Revelations of Heaven or something like that?
Yeah, that was the first one.
Right.
And then just recently, we played another one. I got to participate.
That's okay. Awesome.
I'll find those.
Well, we'll get links to all of that stuff. We've got some great streaming content at various places for the Dark Eye. So if you're curious, go check it out. And the associated card game is set in the same universe as the Aventuria adventure card game. And Robert, what can you tell us about that? What's going on there?
So with Aventuria, we had that on Game on Tabletop, but we really didn't get the eyes that we were looking for or the traction that we wanted based on our previous crowdfunding. And so we are going to kind of click the pause on that, and we're going to put it back up on Kickstarter in the next couple of months so we can get some extra eyeballs on it.
Okay. So where will people go to find some details about that?
So we will, it'll be on our social media. It'll be, we'll be putting a blast out on our mailing list. So if you want to join that, you can go to ulysses-us.com and sign up to our mailing list, and it'll be out there. You can also, if you want to start looking at what that, some of the content that was there, we put the tabletop simulator demo of the Treasure Hunter at ulysses-us.com as well.
Okay. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on our site, and this show will get you more updates on that relaunch as the details become available. Moving on to the Myth game, Myth: Dawn of Heroes. The World book is now available on PDF, and physical copies are going out to backers right now. They've come through the warehouse and are on their way. Mm-hmm. The cards that were included in the World of Myth crowdfunding are available as print and play or print on demand from Drive-Thru RPG. So definitely go there and check that out. That's a lot of new material for Myth: Dawn of Heroes. We're still moving towards getting all the miniatures together and fulfilling Journeyman, which is right on track. All of that is going very well. And new miniature creation and all of the materials we're getting together for the new launch of the Dawn of Heroes edition of the game is going very well, and new graphics have been presented as far as the packaging and trade dress to Eric, who is managing that project, and I think he'll be sharing some of that with the audience here very soon, so keep an eye out for that.
Definitely. And moving along to Myth Tales of Legend, which is the role-playing game that goes with Myth. JM wrapped up his Myth Tales of Legend, the Lost Barrow Quick Start adventure, and you can find that on YouTube. How was producing that, JD?
That was fabulous. I always enjoy watching JM play, but it's also a special experience when you have, the designer and the writer playing it together, and how they were able to interact and, see the rules happening and explain. It's like playing with someone who is so familiar that it's seamless. Like, I don't think I've ever played with a GM where it's like, I know exactly what's happening. Most of them are like, I have to think about that. There was a thing in this section of rules. It was like poetry.
Where does the game stop and the game master begin? They are one. Awesome.
Nice.
And everybody had a lot of fun with their characters. So it's always great when the players are having a great time because that engages the audience. So you don't have to worry about trying to manufacture, anything in the chat to try and get them
Sure.
engaged. It's just everyone wants to participate. It's great.
Well, there's definitely Ross and JM hosting their Campfire Chats every other Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific. The last two shows were about character creation. The next one is next Thursday, and is that October 1st? Am I reading that right?
Yep, that's as far as I know, that is the first. Yes.
Awesome.
So they decided to kind of slow it down a little bit. They were doing every week, but now they're going to go to every 2 weeks just to give them a little more time. And they've kind of delved into so much content on a weekly basis. There's so much. So if you guys want to know about the history of Myth, as well as the setting information, as well as game material information, check out the Campfire Chats on YouTube.
Terrific. So let's move on to Torg Eternity.
Yeah, in Torg Eternity, just today we had our kickoff meeting for Aurora, and that'll be coming along next month. So we'll be sure to put out some details of when that'll be coming out. But late next month, you can expect the horror realm of Aurora.
A horror thing coming out in late October. Could there be a tie-in of some kind? I don't know.
It could be.
We'll have to think of that.
Yeah. So if you were a CyberPapacy backer, those PDFs are out, and the PDFs on DriveThru should be coming out. Hopefully, we still have time for the end of this month, so we're still waiting on that, but I haven't heard about that specifically. We should put a call in to see when.
Terrific.
And then
so we've got
JM
streaming content, of course. Yeah, go ahead.
JM is running his Four Horsemen. Although, what happened this last week, JD?
We really want both games, Torg and Fading Suns, to be a great way to introduce new people to the game, to help them understand. And so this last week, that's what we did. We had a one-on-one session with a player who has never played Torg before. A lot of our players started off without having played Torg at all. And so JM took him through a one-on-one adventure where it allowed him to kind of ease into a little bit of combat, a little bit of how to use his abilities and how to use fate and all of those things that are going on in the system, while also tying him into the storyline. Because I don't know if your viewers remember, we had a cliffhanger the previous episode. And so this episode ties in how that came to be and opens up the possibility of what that will mean for the horsemen who are no longer 4.
It's the 5 horsemen now,
huh? Yeah.
Nice. So in addition to those streams, which are every Tuesday at 5:30 Pacific on Twitch, How to Be a Great Game Master has also put out several videos about Torg. The most recent was the actual play called the Rybinsk Gambit, but he also, much like he's doing with the Dark Eye, he did a kind of overview video. He did a lore video. He did a how to GM video, and then a prep video. And so there's a bunch of videos if you want to kind of see a little bit of the backside of Torg, because normally when you watch like the Four Horsemen, you watch a stream, you just see the game as it's played, as opposed to more details about the actual system and the setting. So moving along into Fading Suns, we're still waiting for more of those preview PDFs to come out, but they are slowly moving. We've been in talks with Mike, and Mike, who's the art director, has sent us some video or some of the new art that we've streamed on Heretical Musings, which is the show with Bill Bridges and Andrew Greenberg every other Tuesday. Actually, I think that's the first and third Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific. And like last time, they talked about I think last week was the history of like Fading Suns, like what's happened between from basically now until 3,000 years in the future, like what's happened over that time. So that was an
Plenty.
interesting, yeah, that was an interesting show for sure. Now JM has been producing all kinds of Fading Sun shows. Originally, there was the crew of the Oh Boy, which was the in-person crew, and then that kind of we changed stories when the pandemic hit and everyone was online. But now they're back to the Oh Boy. Tell us about that, JD.
Yeah, it is. We are super excited. We are very, very excited. The players are super excited about being back because, they have been, living and working through the system for a couple years now. And that is something that we are excited about with them. They have, I believe, one more episode before we kind of tie in where the previous crews were and how they are going to, if they are going to meet up and merge into a new crew of the Oh Boy. So, spoiler.
Nice. No, that's awesome. That's great. Yeah. So what's kind
Great.
of happening in that game right now?
Well, JM has a very good creepy face, guys. I don't know if you know that. And I'm not gonna lie, there are definitely parts of the game where it's gonna give you chills because we're dealing with this. It's beautiful and horrifying all at the same time. There are things in the spaces between the stars, right? Things that hold, dark and evil intent. And they are starting to emerge onto the world that has been dominated by the church for so long that the church has forgotten that they're real. Or at least that's how I feel when it's happening. It's just this, no one seems to understand that it's real and it's powerful and building strength.
Nice.
And so the crew of the Oh Boy is standing in this place where they have found a small flicker of faith in this person of, Saint Beatrice. And she is guiding them to stand in the gap between things that are building to crash upon the world. It is, I cannot even tell you guys how rich this story is, and you should absolutely go on YouTube and watch it.
Now that's an endorsement. I love it.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Terrific.
I love my crew. I love all of my crews.
That's awesome.
So do you
well, of course,
do you produce other shows as well, or are you just producing for us?
I do. I work for Iconic Production, and so we have 2 shows of our own that air on the nights when we're not streaming for Ulysses.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Great.
And where
Then we can get a link up to
those? Yeah.
Yeah.
We have our own Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Iconic Production, and we have been playing 13th Age Heroes on the Edge of Desolation. We are going to be probably starting in October with Call of Cthulhu, so we can get our creepy on. And, we'll see how long that storyline lasts. And then we also have a homebrew D&D game on Fridays.
Cool.
Nice. Yeah. So what do you, kind of, you guys have been playing Fading Suns and Torg even for quite a while. Like, how have you seen that and like just the game evolve and like the community evolve over this couple of years?
It is always a unique experience to watch a game being played for the first time, whether it's, ready to be released onto the world or not, because the players are really falling in love with their characters and what their characters can do. I think one of my favorite moments was when we had a short little storyline where everybody got to play battle brothers, brother battle or battle brothers or sister battles, and they all were understanding how Gemma operates and her mentality and mindset as they were all playing the same kind of character, which was a really unique way of exploring all the different ways and personalities and workings out that a single character class can have, which is always amazing to watch. And I think that that is one of the unique experiences in watching the game evolve, is that yes, the character personalities kind of settle in and become familiar and comforting and hilarious, but it is also the players getting comfortable with how the rules work and how the world works. And that is one of the best parts of any evolution of a game, is everyone kind of understanding the stakes and then allowing their characters to discover those same stakes. And that's brilliant, because all of the things that make the game easier to play, the little tweaks that happen, or the little, the extra powers or abilities that a character class might get, that's just gravy.
Nice. Well, I think that's gonna about wrap it up for us today. So thank you for watching Ulisses World Show. If you'd like to chat more with Ulisses folks or other fans, check out our Discord community where you can find individual channels for all of our games. If you like the show, please follow and subscribe to our channels on Twitch and YouTube, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss anything. So thank you, JD, for telling us about what it looks like on the back end of our Twitch channels, and thank you for getting those online for us every single week. We really appreciate it.
Love it.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, so for Ulysses Spiel, I'm Robert Aducci, and this is Tim Brown. Thanks for watching.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Enjoy your day.
Come back in 2 weeks on Thursday, October 8th at 9 a.m. Pacific time for more Ulysses Worlds news. Bye.